Welcome to Sober Talk. I'm Dennis and I'm an alcoholic. Sober today thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous. If you or anyone you know is struggling with alcohol, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 222222 or visit their website at aa.org.au. I'll just run through the preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for a membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety.
How you going, people? I'm Steve. I'm an alcoholic. I don't know what to share, and when I share, I always before I share, I've got all these things going through my mind that I want to say, and as soon as I think of them, they go away. The thought, everything I want to say, I've already forgotten it. So I'll just start from the beginning. A little kid. Remember being a little boy, and a lot of kids, I don't know, they used to act tough to me. Like when I was a little boy, I used to get punched in the stomach, and kids at school used to call me names, and I don't know whether sometimes they'd call me horrible things, and I grew up in public school, and some of the kids were pretty tough back then. And I remember one kid that we were scared of, and he used to get the cane, because they had the cane back then. And all the kids were afraid of him, and he'd get suspended and finally expelled. And this is junior primary, and I remember parts of my childhood being winded and punched in the stomach and shoved, and I had to go to lessons to exert my my energy. Instead of getting angry, I was taught to say no, or stop, or and my dad put me in self-defense, and there was martial arts teaching, and I did that, and I practiced that for a while, and I did other martial arts when I was a teenager, and did two different types of it, and that wasn't because I wanted to bash people or hurt people. It was because I wanted to be able to defend myself. I felt helpless against these other kids, and so I started to defend myself, and very quickly I started becoming a bully. And I turned from the kid that was being teased and hurt and needed help, and into being in high school, when a kid pushed me in my face, and when somebody pushed me, I started I'd ball up all of this this anger inside of myself, and I couldn't let it out. And if somebody really messed with me, I'd explode. All of that stuff that I balled up inside, I'd explode, and I'd bash them. And very my alcoholism, that's sort of another story of the mental side of things. But I remember the first time I experienced alcohol. I wasn't drunk, but the effect that when I was a little kid, I was at a family party, and I remember popping up over the tables and just having little sips out of their, Fruity Elixir and Saint Tropez and all those cask wines that my family drink, and I wasn't drunk, but I remember the effect. My alcoholism, I can remember it now. I can see the alcoholism inside of me that wasn't there yet. But when I had those little sips, I felt fantastic. I felt like I'd rebelled against my parents or rebelled against the people in my family or the people around me. Um, so yeah, I went through, school and, I never felt like I fit in, with the other kids. I never felt like I was like one of them, and I knew it. I felt outcasted, and that's probably my story of drinking, and I go into drugs as well. But I never, for a long time after I was a kid, I didn't want to be me anymore. I didn't want to be Stephen. I wanted to be someone else, and I found drugs more than alcohol. I found drugs in high school, and marijuana was my drug of choice. And when I smoked it, I didn't feel like Stephen anymore. I didn't want to be me. I didn't like who I was. I didn't, I felt like someone else, and I felt fantastic. I turned into this totally different person than what I was. Um, falling asleep in class, going from somebody who got awards in high school to somebody who just barely passes year 12. And, I smoked dope all the way through year 12. And I smoked cigarettes. And the only time I drank while I was in school was, I got taken to a hotel, and it didn't take me much to get drunk. I think it was about 8 drinks, and it was test tubes of ouzo, and it was beer. And I know now, looking back in hindsight, that I had an allergy then. Like, my allergy was there because I didn't take much to get drunk, and when I did get drunk, I was vomiting. I was passing out. I was blacking out. I was falling over in the ground. And woke up in my house with my mum with a cloth over my head and a bucket next to me, and that was my first drunk experience with alcohol. And it is an irrational disease. Why do I want to smack my head against a brick wall and say it feels good and keep on doing it, knowing that it doesn't feel good? But you'd think, oh, if you had that experience when you're a teenager, that you wouldn't go back for more, would you? It's pretty strange. It's irrational. Why would you go back for more? It's like, in pain, bad stuff's happening, and yet for the next few years, I didn't drink very much. But when I was 19, I found nightclubs, and then I found speed, and I found LSD and cocaine and lots of alcohol. And I found that when I was in a nightclub, I couldn't handle my alcohol. I couldn't handle it at all. But when I had speed, I'd have a amount of speed, and I was able to drink as much as I want without passing out, and I could handle it when I had that adrenaline in my body. And again, I didn't want to be me. I was in the nightclub. I got the opportunity to do whatever I wanted to do, and I'd made myself into someone else again. I'd turned into another person, and always chasing little things like, do I want to be a dancer, a club dancer, or do I want to, who am I going to associate with that will gratify my own, my own ego, and so I drank a lot. I wasn't a morning drinker, and I wasn't an afternoon drinker, and I wasn't a daily drinker, but I was a binge drinker. And I don't think, maybe once not, but I don't think I ever had a drink where I wasn't drunk. I think every time I drank, I was drunk. And I didn't drink because it smelled or tasted good. I didn't drink because it went good with food, like cheese or whatever, or like meats, or, have a glass of wine with a little cheese platter and sit there and enjoy your wine. And it's very strange to me why I say it to my family. They have one beer and stop. My sister has a glass of wine and that's it. And then he stops. And it's like, my alcoholism today, I know that it's very strange to me why somebody can drink and not get drunk. Being drunk was, I had that ism inside of me, and when I drank to ride myself off. And there were good times. There were times when I had a good time and I went home and I went to work the next day, and that was it. But most of the time, I didn't sleep for 3 or 4 days. I wasn't eating. I couldn't eat because I was on drugs. And, I was getting very sick very, very, very quickly. And in about at the age of 20, 21, I'd pretty much rode myself off completely. It pretty much cooked my brain completely, and I almost drank myself to death. And I didn't know what to do anymore. I wanted help, and I didn't know how to ask for it. And I sat on my parents' bed, and I was crying. And I remember doing this, and I said, "Look, Mum and Dad, I'm sick. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sick. I can't stop drinking. I can't stop doing the things I'm doing, and I need help." And for me, I needed to be put in a ward where they could monitor me, because my brain was fried. I did so much speed and cocaine and needles and everything I could put in my body to turn myself into someone else, I did. And so for a period of 2 years, I was an outpatient, and I'd be put in and I'd go home. Mum and Dad would visit me, my family would visit me. They detox me. I go home sometimes on a daily sometimes on a daily basis, and I'd spend time with my family. I was very lucky that some of the things I did were very criminal, and I think I was being shown leniency for what the things I was doing when I was using. I had no idea I was breaking the law. I had no idea that I was doing the wrong thing to others. What the things I was doing criminal activities. And the thing about it is I thought it was normal to do what I was doing. And no, it's not normal to do the things we do when we drink and drug. And so when I walked into these rooms, I didn't want to be here, staring people down. I had every excuse under the sun why it was nobody else's, why it wasn't my fault, and that it was everybody else's problem, and that it was their fault, and they were judging me, and there was nothing wrong with me, and there's that ism telling me that even though everything's gone, everything's broken, there's nothing good left. My alcoholism tells me to keep on drinking, even though I know, just to get that effect. And so I remember somebody, when I walked into the rooms, like I said, I didn't want to be me, and when I came in the rooms, it was a member that walked up to me and said, he said, "Hello," and I said, "I'm Steve," and he said, "The best thing you can do is be yourself." And I didn't know what that meant at that time, but today I know that when I come in these rooms, I'm given the opportunity to be honest and to tell the truth. And when I'm being someone else, I'm not honest and I'm not telling the truth. So I began on the journey of 2 years of older members talking to me. And, in those first 2 years, I was physically clean and sober, but mentally my mind was in the gutter. And I had to get my mind out of that alcoholic gutter. And that meant disconnecting me from hotels, nightclubs, pubs, anything late at night. The closest I get to a hotel is going out for dinner, and that's it. And then I leave. And that'll be with members. I started to do the program to the best of my ability. I'm lucky I had a father in these rooms that was an alcoholic. He passed on about 6 or 7 years ago. and that was Snowy, and he helped me for more than a decade, helped me to understand the program and to do it to the best of my ability. And I've met a lot of members. I've seen a lot of members come and go, and I've seen a lot of old members pass on. And the best thing I ever did when I stepped into these rooms was listen to to open my ears and listen to what they were hearing, because I don't hear anyone else but myself. When I step into a room, when I was stepping into the rooms, you were talking, all I could hear was myself. I couldn't hear you. And so I started to listen, and I started to hear what I needed to hear to get better, to get clean and sober. And I have no compulsion to drink or use one day at a time. I'm here of my own free will, which I'm lucky. I think that I am here of my own free will, because I did some pretty gnarly shit when I was drinking. And yeah. But Mum's still alive, and I have my family today. The worst thing I ever did was say to my mum, "Fuck off, bitch." And that's the worst thing I ever remember doing. I never hurt my mother. But you know what? I was drinking a 6-pack of Woodstock when I said that. And she was telling me to stop. And I was at my friend's house, and one of my mates said to me that I used to know back then, he said, "That's your mother, Steve." And, that really cut me deep when I remember saying that to my mother. And all through this, my father seemed to keep his cool. I never seen the man, nobody could sway my father. You couldn't get him. You could get angry with him, you could say horrible things to him, but yet he was like a rock. Like, he never reacted. And me personally, I've seen people in these rooms, they fight each other, they try to bash each other, they have a go at each other. But if my dad had done some of the things I did to my mum and dad, I probably would have bashed him. And that's what he didn't do. What he did was he was a loving father, and he gave me the opportunity to prove myself. He gave me the opportunity to better myself. And I've been clean and sober for 23 years, and I have a life. I have a bank account. I'm going overseas. I'm going to conventions. I'm going interstate. I'm going out for dinner. I got money in the bank. I'll go home tonight and put the bin out. I never thought it was possible to put a fucking bin out. I'm washing the dishes. I'm putting the clothes off the line. I'm working out. I'm walking an hour a day. I'm definitely not in the alcoholic gutter anymore. I'm still an alcoholic. I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll be clean and sober one day at a time. But when I wake up tomorrow, even though I'm not drinking, I'm still an alcoholic. I've still got that genetic disease, that alcoholism inside of me, and it'll always be there, because it's like, I said in another meeting that it's like what is that STD? It's called syphilis or something. Like, you get it, it goes away, but it's dormant. Like, it stays in your body forever. And that's what alcoholics like. It's dormant. When we get clean and sober, it's dormant. It goes away, but it's always going to be there. That genetic disease will always be inside of me. And if I think that I'm better than any of you, if I think that I'm smarter, if I think that I can outsmart any of you and say it's your fault and it's not my fault and I can drink, I'm kidding myself. Because I will do that. My alcoholism will tell me to do that. So if I don't come to a meeting, it might be it might be a month, it might be a year, it might be a week, it might be years. But my mind will go back to the way it was, and eventually I will have a drink, because my dormant alcoholism will resurface. And so tonight I had sweet and sour chicken and tom yum soup. And if I was drinking and drugging, I'd have no money, and all my money would be spent on drugs and alcohol, and I'd probably be a bludger off my parents, and just hurting the ones I love, and I don't need to do that today. I can be me. And when I said before I wanted to be someone else, to the bottom of my heart, I don't want to be anyone else anymore. I want to be me, and I like being me, because Stephen, I'm a functioning adult. I'm functioning with other adults, and I'm living an adult life. And when I put a drink in my system, I'm not an adult anymore. I'm a little child, and I want to get my own way. And so I have a life that is great, and I don't know what else to say, but I'm grateful to have people around me like Eddie and Arthur and John and Peter and Rolf and Larry and the older timers that I don't want to listen to sometimes, but I do. I do. I have to listen to these people, because the first 2 years of my sobriety, I wouldn't listen to them, and my mind wasn't getting any better. So today I listen, and I do what they say, within reason. So, I'm grateful to be clean and sober one day at a time. I think that's about, I've got nothing else to say, but, one thing I will close on is that if you guys weren't here, there wouldn't be a meeting. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have known that there are other people like me, that I could get help, that I could mingle with you people, and you could understand me, and Bob and Bill, we've got people around us. Them two just started off, just them two. What kind of a hard job that would have been, just having two people, not having anyone else. But where first 100 people started the big book and wrote it, and today I'm understood, and I'm understood because I can be me, and I'm grateful. So thanks, guys.
AA has more than 2 million recovering alcoholics throughout the world. In Australia, there are about 18,000 members. They meet in over 2,000 local meetings spread around the country. Meetings range in size from a handful in some areas to hundreds or more in larger communities. And once again, if anyone you know is struggling with alcohol issues, please call Alcoholics Anonymous in 1300 222222 or visit their website on aa.org.au.